Well, hello out there, Microsoft Ignite. Have we got some experts that we hope you are here to ask questions of? This is a session that's tied to Jeff Teeper's breakout session that just ended a couple of minutes ago, BRK206. So go imagine this is an Ask the Experts that's got a code of CONATEBRK206, which is a great way of saying any questions that you have around OneDrive, SharePoint, Teams, Office.com, development, admin, security. We've got a ton of people on the back end that are here to answer your questions, both in text and on video. So get your engines running. We've got a lot of people here to answer your questions. We'll be on for the next half hour, so I say, let's go. To give you a sense of what Jeff covered, if you didn't see the session and want to review, there were just a few things that he mentioned and a few things that were related that we drew into this particular slide, but hopefully it gives you an idea of the people that we have on this ATE that are here to answer questions around OneDrive, lists, admin and migration, SharePoint, Office.com and Outlook, security and graph. So we've got these bases covered. Step up to the bat, ask your questions. I bet you're going to hit a home run. And I think the first question that we saw come in was around, are we doing anything around Excel Live in Teams like you can do with PowerPoint? I don't think we have one of our subject matter experts from the Teams team, but I think it's great feedback. And I don't know if Arwa, if there's any thoughts in terms of just how people might leverage Excel Online and sharing out in a browser. But any thoughts just around how Office can come into Teams or people can collaborate in that real-time experience?
Awesome, that's a great question. This is something we'll definitely take offline to get you more information. With the latest work that's happening, we are looking to bring the latest and greatest from Office into Teams with a few focus areas around what are the best ways for default opening of your content within Teams so that you have a lot of control over whether to open your content within desktop applications, within the web, and have control there. We're also looking to make sure PowerPoint Live with the presentation capabilities that exist, you're able to have the best experience with making presentations within the context of Teams. For more, we'll definitely follow up with the team to be able to give you more of an update there.
Great, thank you, Arwa. One question I saw around migration was asking if there is a way to email a file into SharePoint or just a best methods, not necessarily a strict migration. And it's something that they have seen with other clouds. And I was just thinking out loud who we have from the admin side. I think, Sesha, I'm going to throw this one to you just from how we might address getting files into SharePoint. I have one thought around a partner that we work with, but anything you can add there in terms of bringing files into SharePoint, especially like an email.
Yeah, thank you for that question. In terms of bringing files to SharePoint Online, migrating files to SharePoint Online, we do have SharePoint migration tool. That's the great tool to use from on-premises to SharePoint Online. But specifically from box migration, we actually announced Migration Manager that helps you to bring files from box to SharePoint Online. And in terms of emailing a file directly to a SharePoint document library folder, I don't think we have any specific feature on this regard. But generally speaking, like I said, Migration Manager, if you wanted to move a set of folders into a document library or a specific SharePoint site, that'll be the approach that I would suggest to take a look here.
Excellent. Thank you, Sesha. There's a lot of work that the team is doing to be able to get your content into the cloud. There's also a lot of great partners that offer services that might do some unique things that our tools don't, especially when it comes to from Outlook into SharePoint. And that's certainly something you can follow up with me and I can point you to a couple of resources. Next one is a list question. And I was going to bring up our friend Lincoln Damaris, and he actually looks like a glowing list today because he's got that great list icon behind him. But the question is oriented around when somebody builds the list as a data resource, but maybe wants to have the front end either be a form or a Power App. Can you maybe walk through some of the things that you could do today, or maybe some workarounds in how people can hide the list but use it to collect data?
Oh, that's a really popular scenario. It's one of my favorite use cases of lists. We see all the time people using Microsoft Forms for data collection and then using a Power Automate to basically pump that data into a list. And often I think it's really useful for that list to not be hidden, but to be sort of a shareable record of all of the data that was collected in the form. And so that's a really popular and cool use case of lists that we support, and I see a lot of success with that all the time. Of course, there's a myriad number of ways you can build a Power App and have that talk to a list and any number of data sources on the back end. The possibilities are endless there. But yeah, we have full connectivity with the Power Platform, Power Apps, Power Automate. And that's a great way of stitching together flow and lists. I'd love to learn more about what you're trying to accomplish, but there's a ton of examples out there, and it's one of our favorite ways to use the product.
It is, and I think I see that same feedback as well that Lincoln is referencing. So definitely, if you have more to share that you can provide as feedback, just put more into the chat. And as we review everything, we'll make sure to get that back to not only Lincoln, but to anybody on his team that can take that. The next question, I'm going to kind of generally open this up because it's pretty new kid on the block, which is Microsoft Loop. So as we take a loop around the block, I will open this up to just anybody that might be open to either taking the feedback or if you have an answer. Jeremy, I was going to call on you first just from a graph perspective, if there's awareness of the loop components. The question really is, where are loop components stored? And I have a guess at some of the elements because it brings together a lot of content types. But if you or anybody on the call, just let me know if you know. It's going to be, I think, a common question. I saw it earlier today in Jeff's and on the Twitter sphere, people asking, where is loop or loop components? Where do they get stored? But anybody feel comfortable about that one? We don't have anybody from the loop team per se, but I know there's some work that the SharePoint team is doing with a lot of those new components. But Jeremy, I'll stop talking. Do you have any insights just from a graph perspective, which might infer where things are stored?
I believe we are still working on that. I had my first conversation about it yesterday, so it's definitely something that I think we're still figuring out exactly what all the details are going to be. But it is something, obviously, top of mind. It's a new app, and we're going to make sure that there's a story that makes sense for the storage. I think I saw one of the questions was some concern about, are they stored in OneDrive? That I assume that leads to questions of quota. I don't know that we have all the answers today, but it's something that we're still working on, and we'll publish guidance as we get things firmed up for people.
Yeah, I will just say on behalf of the team, I know it's early days. It is one of our big new announcements here at Ignite. So internally, there aren't as many subject matter experts that are in the know because they keep it pretty tight for a lot of those bigger announcements. We had it in Jeff's session as a notion of a mention because I think there is a common SharePoint content services play to a lot of the content, but not all of it. But to give you one sense, with Whiteboard recently, now when you create a whiteboard, that is stored in OneDrive. That was not the default initially. So there are a lot of ways that other teams, partner teams, will leverage the value of the SharePoint files platform. Also to what Jeremy and also our other Jeremy Thake, our representative of the Microsoft Graph team, kind of for developers and what we do with it here internally for things like SharePoint Syntax. There's a lot that builds on top of that content services platform and how that plays into the graph. So we will absolutely chase down that question, make sure that we have that answer. It may not come for a little bit as they formalize what the full plan is of record in terms of documentation and what we can share externally. But thank you for the interest. And there is a new Microsoft Loop site. Just type in Microsoft Loop and you'll find it. It does have early information that's out there. And there is also a session that was dedicated to everything that the Office team is doing, who technically owns and manages Microsoft Loop. And I believe that was BRK 201 with Wayne Gui. So check out those sources and just keep asking. Once we have that refined answer, we will get it to you. The next question I'm going to throw back to Sesha was around environments that are split between on-premises and online, and specifically SharePoint, and how they should go about it. And maybe, Sesha, this is an opportunity to talk about hybrid, or that notion of getting more into the cloud and at some point in time, maybe not requiring on-premises. But I'll leave it to you just in terms of information architecture and best practices for hybrid.
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. Thank you for the question. So I noticed that you're talking about you're merging with another company, and that company happens to have an on-premises environment, and you are already in SharePoint Online. And how do we bring that content together? I think there are, I would say, two options here. So the first option Mark alluded to, which is hybrid. You can connect your on-premises, your partner's on-premises environment to your online, and then start planning your migration. So you can start with hybrid, but then start planning the migration of that on-premises environment to your SharePoint Online. So that's one option. The other option is you can look at if that partner environment is already planning to get into SharePoint Online, they are in the process of doing it, then let them actually get into the SharePoint Online. And then we are looking at capabilities where within SharePoint Online, we are actually having a private preview where you can bring content together, consolidate them between two tenants. So let's say you have your own tenant and then your merging tenant, and then you can bring them together as well. So depending on what state that particular on-prem environment is, you have these two choices to go with.
Great. Thank you, Sesha.
Thank you.
There's a lot of documentation in this space as well. There's ways to migrate content. There's ways to administer and even secure and compliance measures that you can do sort of by default that you get when you configure any of those things, or you can apply additionally. So Sesha team and our documentations team have done a lot of work in this space. So definitely go look for it, or ping me and I'll help you find what you're looking for. Next question is for Robert Thomas. He's from our Office team. And Robert, there was a question around the Office.com templates and how they can be leveraged, both templates that we provide and templates that maybe are custom to the enterprise, maybe like a Contoso Electronics Word document template. But maybe, Thomas, if you could share a little bit more around what you and the team are doing with templates on Office.com.
Sure, my pleasure. We're really excited about what's coming into the new Office.com experience. We have an entirely new module specific to creating content that we're calling the Create module. And so in this space, you'll have a wide variety to create new blank content as shown across the top, but then below that, there's an entirely new section all about surfacing templates that may be valuable to enterprise users. There's a series of template categories shown there, and if your company has a series of enterprise templates, they will show up as a template category there. And in the chat, I'll link the steps to set up enterprise templates for your company so that they surface in this new experience.
Excellent. Thank you, Robert. The next one I'm just going to take because it's a really easy one. Is this being recorded and available on demand later? The answer is absolutely. Anything that you can tune into at Ignite is being recorded, even if it's live like we are today, and that'll be made available as soon as it's ready at this same link as you came to view it today live. The other one is kind of a pretty easy answer as well that I just saw around spaces in Teams. This is SharePoint Spaces, which is a new three-dimensional way of configuring a page in SharePoint with 3D objects and ways to orient people around. You don't have to have a headset, but you certainly can. But the question was, can I add spaces into Teams? And the answer is yes, because you can add spaces, or spaces is a page. You can also embed them in a page. And then you can add that SharePoint as a tab in Teams. It's a really great way to do it. It's a demo that I've done in the context of when I have shared a lot of what you can do in Microsoft Teams. There's a lot of things that you can add as a tab in Teams, and spaces and SharePoint pages are certainly one of them. The next question, I wanted to bring in Jeremy Thake. just to ask a little bit around some of the announcements that we made around the Microsoft Graph data connection, or Data Connect. I want to make sure I'm getting it right. But Jeremy, if you wouldn't mind just sharing a little bit about what the news was, and then just explaining how people can make those connections. I think it's in the context of search, in Graph, and obviously some partners as well, but love to hear more about that.
Sure, thanks, Mark. So with Data Connect and Graph connectors, just to keep you on your toes in the way we name things, with Data Connect, it's all about pulling the data out of the Microsoft Graph at scale. So rather than using our REST APIs to say, take all of the calendar items out of multiple mailboxes within a tenant, you can set essentially a way to pull that out in bulk on a scheduled basis. And it allows our service to scale. It allows you to do this in a more stable way. And we're adding more entities as of today in preview with regards to some of the SharePoint entities and some of the Teams chat entities as well. And then from a Graph connectors perspective, not pulling data out, but putting data in, what you'll actually find is with Graph connectors, you can push content into essentially our search index within the tenant, and it'll start to light up in various different places, whether it's inside of Office.com search or whether it's inside of the Office.com recommended feed based on activity of what your external entities are doing. And we're finding that both kind of enterprise line of business developers and also kind of ISV partners using this as a way of allowing users of Microsoft 365 to be able to not just see Word documents, PowerPoint documents, and Excel documents in the flow of their work in their browser or Teams or Outlook, etc., but also to see data from other services. And so we showcased a few things there around ServiceNow, for instance, seeing ServiceNow tickets showing up inside of our search experience. But you can plug any system you like in there. And so we're really excited to see some of those integrations that will come through by working both with Graph connectors and also with Data Connect with your own systems. There is a bunch of websites you can go to, but the main one to start on is just graph.microsoft.com.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeremy. And I know during Jeff's session, we also published the new blog that the Microsoft Graph team put out there. There's also one companion to it that our friend and peer Bill Baer put out from a search perspective. So a lot of information on the graph, a lot of information on how you can use it to bring data in and, of course, then represent it in a smart way. The next question is for Arwa. And Arwa, if you don't mind, I'm going to throw two questions at you because I think they will be they pair well with your area of expertise. So the first question is, when will people be able to edit non-Office files? Maybe there's a little story of what we offer today and thoughts around what you and your team are thinking in terms of files in Microsoft 365 to be able to edit them in the browser, but not just Office files.
Yeah, this is a great question, and one that we think a lot about from the context of both teams as well as the context of OneDrive and SharePoint. And this is a journey that we're on, and so really, we really value the feedback about which file types in particular you would like to see edit capabilities for, because each one of them is something that we will need to tackle individually. Next up, the file type that we are focusing edit capability investments on is PDF. And so that is something that we are actively working on and something that we'll be talking about more in the near future. In terms of other file types, again, would love the feedback on specific file types that would be valuable to you so that we can track that internally. Back over to you, Mark, for the second question.
Yeah, the second question is a little bit more specific. What security is around the request a file anonymous link in OneDrive? The use case would be including an upload link in a user's signature. I'm very excited to hear what your answer is because I think we have a good one. Well,
I'm actually looking to see if there's a better contact here. I see Stephen Rice is on the call. I'd love to find the right person for this.
That'd be great. Stephen, if you're on and you don't mind coming on video or at least audio, I can tackle a little bit if the answer is no. But the scenario is here: when you share a file anonymously from OneDrive, is there a way for people to upload anonymously or upload to you without affecting any of your security or privacy.
Mark, I think I misspoke about something.
Oh, no.
Let's go ahead and try and tackle the answer.
No, it's okay. So there is a feature in OneDrive, and it's very specific to the user, where you can configure in OneDrive a way to have people send you files. And we actually do this with one of our vendors that has OneDrive on their side. And when we're working with them to provide them files, whether it's a PowerPoint, a demo video, they are working to combine the video together to do some of our presentations, and the output is then a file back to us. But they always have a link in their email. It's just a part of their signature. Send me your file. And you literally click it. It opens up a web page. You browse and upload the file of interest. And when you submit it to them, you also add your name. And on their end, in the folder where they requested that file, I think that's what it's called, request files, they'll see then the name of the file and your name appended to it. And it just was that easy. From their email signature, click, web page, browse and find, and upload. And it does it in a way that is like an anonymous link to capture the files. But there's enough information so you know who's putting files into your OneDrive, and it's based on your location where you told them to put it. So next question I'm going to throw to Michaela Barrett. And Michaela, this is a fun one, I think a pretty easy one, but maybe just add a little context because we haven't yet talked about it here in the session. But they're asking about the new board view for lists. And the specific question is, when is board view coming? And I think you have an answer. It's on the roadmap. But maybe just also provide a little context of what board view is and some of the things that your team has been working on. Oh, on mute, on mute.
For the actual dates, I'm going to defer to Lincoln. But for the board view, we've been working on releasing something that acts like a Kanban view where you can set your different columns based on a field in the list. And so you can actually go through and kind of drag your cards between the different statuses to help track a project. And so it's a really cool one that we were demoing earlier. And I will ask Lincoln for the exact dates on when it's rolling out. I don't know them off the top of my head. I don't know if you know them off the top of your head. No
pressure, Lincoln. It's on the roadmap.
Soon. Early next. Oh man, drum rolls. Can I get the answer right? Early next year.
Early next year.
December or January, I think we'll start rolling that out.
To save
coming real soon.
To save Lincoln and Michaela a little bit, it is a new item that we just published to the roadmap yesterday. If you go to the Microsoft 365 public roadmap and just type in board view or Microsoft lists board, you will see it listed there. Again, if you can't find it, follow up with me. I'll send it to you as a direct link. But they always have at least what we're targeting for the release date. And that is something that we did put in there and went live yesterday. The next question I'm going to throw back to, I think, Jeremy Thake, not to put you too much on the spot, because I don't think we have anybody directly from the planner or project team, but it is more of an API-oriented question. And I saw the announcement either in your blog or one of those related to what we're doing with the new tasks API. And it's a hard one to say 5 times fast. So Jeremy, if you can say tasks 5 times fast, and then we'll get to the API.
No, it just doesn't work. It just doesn't happen.
The question is really about being able to roll up various tasks that have been assigned either to you or as they're coming from multiple locations. The question is around SharePoint lists tasks, but I think it's broader with tasks, with planner and to do, how it is that people can think about maybe that tasks API and the implementation of it.
I guess with a hammer, you can do everything, right? Like from an API perspective, the answer is yes. We have planner APIs, we have to-do APIs, and we have SharePoint lists APIs that can pull tasks. I think what the question, if I was putting on my end user hat on, is like, give me a UI that shows me just that view. I would love that too. I know from to-do, I can get my planner tasks if they're assigned to me, but I don't see my SharePoint tasks. So I would punt that to an end user type thing. Maybe is it Lincoln? I don't know. Like I don't know who owns that. Lincoln's like, oh no. But yeah, from an API perspective, you can absolutely do it. And just to cover the announce on the tasks API, we are moving it to me tasks, and the intention there is that will surface through the API, both planner and to do. But there is currently no plan for that to surface SharePoint tasks either. So I do, you would have to go to 2 different APIs even then. So I'm assuming maybe on the user experience side, that would be a similar pain point that might not be addressed at the moment.
Yeah, I will just reiterate maybe on behalf of the audience. I know we get a lot of questions around tasks management. There's a number of apps that help, and there's a lot of services that can equate to assigning a task or creating a new task. One example in Microsoft Word, if I have a comment and I really want somebody to follow up on it, I can mention them, but I can also assign as a task. And I think we'll see that be more pervasive where everything is you can flag an email or assign a task or actually create a task in To-Do or Planner. And to have that holistic view, I think that is the start of that journey, both in how teams can build off of that task service, but also through the Task API, seeing what people do with it. And of course, we're going to be doing things with it as well. The next question I'm going to take is it's super fast, but I think it's an important one that involves a lot of what these teams work on. And they were just asking, we want to roll out Teams at scale. And I hope that means Teams plus lists, Teams plus OneDrive, Teams plus documents, and all the things we're doing with Microsoft Viva. But in essence, getting that sense of how can I best scale out Microsoft Teams for my organization. And it's really just one URL to remember. If you go to adoption.microsoft.com, and I'll say it one more time because there's a load of information there for Teams, for lists, for SharePoint, for Office, but a lot of great documentation in how to roll out Teams at scale at adoption.microsoft.com. And everything that brings through the experience in Teams is a lot of what this team works on to give you that great content experience. And with that, I mentioned Microsoft Viva, and I want to throw the next question to CJ Tan. CJ, I hope your microphone is hot because this one's a really interesting one that really builds off of the work that you and your team are doing around topics and topic pages. The question is, with the advent of Viva Topics, will I be able to make my intranet, SharePoint sites, hub sites obsolete? And maybe you can just put a little lens into what is Viva Topics, what are topic pages, and maybe why it complements the intranet.
Yeah, thanks for the question. So Viva Topics is really around organizing and letting people work where they already work and contribute to the knowledge that they want to. And the purpose of the topics is to take the work that you're doing and organize it in a way that it's going to be discoverable and findable by other people in the organization. So it's not a replacement for the SharePoint sites. It's not a replacement for where people do their work. The idea is to have this grouping around the topic and bringing that information when you need it the most. So through those topic cards, through searches, being able to aggregate and group that together and find the right people and content. So the idea isn't so much that we want you to change where you save your information. We just want to make it easier for people to find that information once you've put it in a place that's going to be discoverable for them anyway. And then at the core of it, of topics, is really around these relationships that topics have with each other. So not only are you discovering the things on the topic that you're interested in, but you'll also have the relationships to these other topics where you can start to learn more and go deeper into how things are connected and maybe connect to someone who's working on something that isn't as close to your topic as you had originally thought.
Excellent. I think that is a great topic to throw to our very last question to bring Sesha in. And just to highlight to everybody what you're seeing on the screen right now, if you go to that AKA link at the top, aka.ms/ignite/ODSPV guide, it is a little bit of a mouthful of an acronym, but it is the best place to learn about all the sessions, blogs, other guides to other things of interest, where you can go and learn about everything that was announced yesterday, today, tomorrow. A lot of great blogs, new videos, and of course, great sessions to also attend or replay if you missed them that they played yesterday. So with this, I want to call in Sesha and bring in a sensitivity security question that I think leads into exactly one of our announcements, but then a little bit refinement to maybe have Lincoln on edge here because it relates to lists. But Sesha, the question is, using a sensitive top secret label application to a site, can you add that extra authentication sign-in in regards to editing a list item? That would satisfy something in the FDA Part 11 signature requirements. Any thoughts there, Sesha, in how to configure or things that they can take advantage of?
Absolutely. Thank you for the question. And in fact, we actually announced a public preview of the granular conditional access policies at the site level. So for example, as you alluded to, there is a top secret site. And whenever somebody accesses the site, you want to have additional authentication prompts or requirements for it because it has FDA approved pharmaceutical information and so on. So you can use this capability to ensure that on demand, the user is prompted for additional authentication. Now that additional authentication, it could be totally up to you. It could be a multi-factor authentication with one-time password, or using Authenticator app to do it, or FIDO key to get into that site. Any sort of possibilities you can choose from, and that's how you can protect all the contents inside that particular site, because of the fact it is a top secret site. So I would encourage you to check out our blog that we announced all the new security and compliance capabilities. We explicitly called out this capability. I think that is right on the alley to help you with this problem.
That is perfect. Thank you, Sesha, and thank you everybody else on this call, both in the community asking questions, subject matter experts being able to provide answers on camera and off camera. And we want to send you over 750 thank yous, because that was how many people we saw that were attending this particular session. We hope you got 750 times more information than you thought you would ever get. We had over 200 questions that came in, and we were able to tackle a lot of them. Keep your questions coming, keep attending a lot of the sessions, read the blogs, join the tech community, make sure to ask your questions in the right forums. We're always engaged across the year, super happy to be engaged in these last 30 minutes. Thank you everybody for your time, and thank you for joining Microsoft Ignite.